Hey, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of How the Freak Am I Gonna Do That? Projects with Chaz. Today we're going to give this 20-year-old riding lawnmower a tune-up. I bought a tune-up kit off of the interwebs, and it comes with all the things you need to keep this thing running. So I'll show you what you need to have on hand to do this task, and we'll get it on. Stay tuned. Alright, so we're working on an LT150. This is from like the year 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. So if you still have your owner's manual or whatever lawnmower you're working with, owner's manual, it'll say in here what the spark plug gap is. So you need a spark plug gap setter. You need to know how much oil your lawnmower takes. This takes a couple quarts, and that's what the kit comes with. There's some grease nipples on the wheels, so I usually attach this to it and put a little grease in. That's optional for you. But to do the tune-up, you got to change the oil filter, so you either need some needle nose or just a regular pair of pliers to get that fuel filter off. Need a socket wrench with a spark plug socket to get your plug out. Change that. Going to be changing the oil, so you need an oil pan, maybe a couple funnels, whichever fits your lawnmower. And I use a jack because I jack the lawnmower up, tilt it to one side so that I can make sure I get all the oil out so that it drips completely out. And probably some paper towel because you're going to make a mess. That's usually how I end up, all messy. So what's in this little kit? So I ordered this off the internet. So mine's an LT150, and it says on here that it's good for the LG150, but it works. Why, I don't know. And it comes with a couple quarts of oil. Comes with an oil filter. Comes with an air filter. Comes with a little thingy-mabob that you put around the air filter to help keep the grass and whatnot from getting through. Comes with a plug and comes with a fuel filter. So let's get under the hood and see how this works. Alright, you're going to want to take the nose of the tractor off. Now if your tractor is not as crashed up as mine, yours will be on like hinges and it'll just lift up, but since I've smashed this in the trees numerous times, probably after a few of those, this thing just is barely sitting on here. I actually have it bungee corded on. So I'm going to undo my bungee cord. Now there's a wire in here that connects the lights. I just detached that because I don't really use the lights, and if I need to I can just plug it back in, but it helps me be able to take this thing right back off. So I'm going to lift this off and set it aside. There we have it in all of her glory. Now I mowed the lawn earlier, so the engine was warm, but it's taken me a while to get prepared to shoot this. So I'm going to start up my motor and let it warm back up, because you always want to change your oil when the oil is warm. You know, so it just oozes out like tomato soup versus being all gooey like syrup. So I'm going to start this up and then let it run for a few minutes, and then we'll get at it. So I'll just let you know what you're looking at here. So this is the air filter. You're going to have to unscrew this. This is actually where the air or the oil will drain out of, and that's why I'm going to jack up the other side of the tractor so that I can get a little angle on this and have it all drip out. But before you do that, you're going to want to unscrew the dip stick so you can get some air in. Sort of like a gas can, the gas doesn't pour out unless you undo that little air cap. Same here, you want to take the dipstick out, get a little air coming in, and then undo this and let it drain out. And I always take off the oil filter first. So usually you can undo this with your hand. You might be able to do it with two hands, or get some big channel locks and put on here, or an oil filter wrench. You don't want to collapse it. But the fuel filter That's right here. So I don't know, there's stuff floating around in there. I don't know what's going on, but you're going to want to get a couple, some pliers on here to disconnect this. Some gas will probably drain out, so you might want to put your oil pan under there and capture some of that. And then the spark plug. Where the hell's the spark plug? Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. It's been a while. And the spark plug. That is right there. So, and then the grease nipples I was talking about, they are on the back side of the wheel here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a nipple right there, and I'm going to put my grease gun on there, and it helps lubricate probably the ball joints or whatever, however the wheel spins. So, let's dig in. Alright, I'm going to clear some of this grass out because I don't want it falling into the oil filter. And it's just making a mess. Alright. So I'm going to take this filter off and can't get it with my bare hands, so I'm just going to get some big channel locks and put on here. I don't have a oil filter that's small enough for this, or an oil filter wrench. I just have ones that fit my car oil filters. Alright, look at these bad boys. So remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty, so left that way. There. So I got it started. Take that off. Now it's a little tricky to get an oil pan in here, so you might need to turn your wheel and just wedge it in there. I'm going to spin this off. Oil's oozing into the pan. And I'm just going to set it there and let it drain. Now I'm going to undo the dipstick. Set that aside. I'll make sure it's clean before I put it back in. And now I'm going to undo this. And that just takes a plier. Or actually I can just do it with my finger. Just turn it. Oh, there we go. Boom. Don't lose that. That's why you need paper towel, because you're going to clean all this up. So as that drains, I'm just going to let it drain. I'm going to jack up the other side, make sure it all comes out. And then a little trick that I do is I pour a little extra oil into it, let clean oil come blasting out to take any impurities that are in the engine, maybe metal shavings or whatever's in there. And then before I cap it and put the fresh oil in. So I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So I like to make sure all this old oil is out, so I stick a paper towel in here and try to soak it up. Try to wipe out any grass, clean up this area because this is where the rubber on the oil filter makes a connection. I want to make sure there's no particles of dirt or grass or whatever sitting on there. So yeah, that's messy. I jacked it up on this side under the deck with a piece of wood. And more oil is a-flowing. So I'm not going to get it all, but I'm just going to let this drain for a little bit. And when I blast new oil through, hopefully it takes out the remaining dirty oil and all the dirt with it. Alright, make sure your funnel is clean. Kind of defeats the purpose of running some fresh oil through to get the remaining dirty oil out. If your funnel, you're just putting a big clump of dirt back in. So I completely cleaned this out. This is a quart of oil that I use throughout the summer because this burns oil, being an old 20-year-old engine. So I just add a little every couple weeks. So what I'll do is blast some of this fresh oil in. And I'm going to let that drain out. So as you can see, that's the fresh oil coming right back out. So if there's any dirt or old oil, it's bringing it with it. All right, you're going to want to grab your cap that you took off, make sure it's clean. There's a little groove in here. Line it up with this nipple. Press it all the way on and then twist it. Make sure it's on. Now, I got the new oil filter. When it was in the box, this rubber O-ring was detached. It was in the bottom of the box. Make sure this goes in here. Now, a good way to put on a fuel filter, you don't want to put it on dry. You want to dip your finger in the oil you just took out of the mower and rub it around the gasket. That way it makes a suction seal against this part here. And you always want to put a filter on hand tight. No channel locks or wrench. And don't cross thread it. So righty tighty. Make sure you get it started there. This should spin easily when you're putting it on. And then when you get it tight, get it hand tight. That's good. You don't want to go any tighter because you could split the gasket and then all the oil will just leak out and then you'll blow up your engine and then you'll be using a push mower. Alright, changed out the oil filter. Actually, we drained the oil, changed out the oil filter, and I took it off the jack. Now I'm going to add a couple quarts of oil. So make sure your funnel is clean. Stick her in there. Don't pour too fast or it'll overflow all over this, over the edge of your funnel and make a freaking mess. But before you empty this whole thing in, take a look and make sure you don't have a leak around your oil filter or the cap that you put on where the oil drained out of. Check for leaks. And it looks good. Alright, you're going to want to save your empty oil quart containers because you're going to put a funnel in it and you're going to put your dirty oil from your oil pan back into these, put the cap on, and then hopefully you have a place nearby where you can recycle this stuff. Or if you're watching in China, I'm sure you just go ahead and dump it in your river. But here we're going to try to preserve the environment a little bit. Alright, while I have my second quart of oil draining slowly into this funnel, I'm going to start taking the air filter apart and swapping out the air filter to the new one. Spin this off. This foamy part is collects like grass and whatnot. It's just an added layer of protection. Unscrew this nut or wing nut. Take the filter off. Doesn't look that bad, but actually it's a white filter, and on the inside here I can tell it's like a furnace filter. It's just full of dirt and dust and debris. So don't get any grass in the hole here. And I'm going to go ahead and put the new one on. Here's the new filter. Wing nut back on. Put this around the outside of the filter. Put this lid back on. Boom! Alright, it looks like the oil is done dripping in here. So I'm going to take this dipstick, make sure it's clean, drop her in, pull her out, and we have fresh oil. If it appears to be a little high on here, it's because I haven't started it and there's no oil in the oil filter, but it's pretty much where it needs to be. Okay, in my owner's manual, I need to swap out my spark plug, which is right down here. But I need to set the gap. That's the distance between where it sparks and the top here, the little lightning bolt. So this is you can set the gap with this little tool. And it says here, gap must be 1 millimeter or 0.040 inches. So on the back, there's millimeters, or I can do 0.040, which is right here. So you slide this into the skinny part, and then you just bring your spark plug around until you get to that spot, and it's stretching this out. So the gap is 0.040, what the manual calls for. And that's it. These things are like 89 cents at the hardware if you need to buy one, or at a parts store. Okay, we're gonna do the spark plug. Set the gap. Now, lefty-loosey, this is a 5/8 inch spark plug socket. It's cushioned on the inside. So, yeah, old dirty one, new one. That's after a year. Oh, dog wants to sniff it. Buddy, that smell? Yeah, that's nasty. So I'm gonna replace it with this new one. Let's chuck this in the garbage. Let future generations find it in a landfill. Alright, get the spark plug started again. Just put it in until you can't turn it anymore with your hand. There. Righty-tighty. You don't want to over-tighten it. There. Alright. Got my spark plug socket stuck on my spark plug, so I had to yank it out with some pliers, but it's in there tight. Stick this back on. Hear it click. Alright, next up we're going to do the fuel filter. Okay, the last thing in my bag of tricks here is the fuel filter. So that goes here, and I'm just going to disconnect these and let whatever fuel runs out of this hose onto the paper towel. It's going to evaporate, so no big deal. And slide this new one on, and we should be ready to put this back together and start it up. This is a little tricky to get undone. You've got to pinch these, slide that little, whatever this is, clamp, slide it up, and then kind of wiggle this loose, because it's over this little lip, this nub, so you need to just get it off of that. There. Got a geyser going. Woo! I'm gonna pull this up in the air. Because if this hose is downward, all the gas is gonna run out. So I'm just gonna clamp on here. Pull the clamp down a little bit. And all the gas is gonna run out of this filter onto the paper towel. Nobody said this was gonna be clean and easy. There we go. Woo! Alright, so did we see which way that was going? Gas is flowing this way. So there should be an arrow on here. Gas flows that way. So we know which way to put this on. So I'm going to stick this in here. Put the clamp up. There, clamps in position. I'm going to slide this back down through here. Whoa, gas. Get it stuck in the hose. Good idea is don't be smoking while you're doing this, because you're going to go up in flames. Alright, that's on. See if I can get it a little snugger. There. Pinch this little clamp, bring her down, let go, and that's it. New fuel filter, because the fuel's flowing this way into the carburetor, and that's going to weed out any particles or whatever's in your gas. That's it. Let's put this back together and see if we can get her to start. Okay, I'm actually going to leave the front hood off, and I'm going to start it so I can see if I have any leaks out of the oil filter or where the oil comes out when you drain it. Okay, I'd mentioned that I take my grease gun and I grease these little nipples up so you can move your front tires over. And there's a grease nipple right there. You just kind of slide this on, and then you give it some pumps until you see some grease coming out of the top here, or the bottom. There. So I know this fitting has enough grease in it. Helps you steer. And that's it. Make sure you wipe that off with a paper towel so you don't get it on your clothes or your dog or your wife or whatever. Hey, alright! Thanks for watching Projects with Chaz. We had another successful outing. We took this old 20-year lawnmower, took a tune-up kit, and we kind of tuned it up. And it starts up, no leaks. Should be good for another year. I do this about every year, and you can too. So like all good projects, I'm going to crack this Bruja and celebrate that I smell like motor oil. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you next time.